And welcome to what figures to be a little bit of a funky edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForest. Very happy to have you with us. Happy to be here, period. I was in the midst of doing another video stream a few minutes ago. And sure enough, as I'm in the middle of some kind of dissertation or whatever it is that I do here on the program, my dog gets up, startled by something, knocks over my cameras and all of my lights, knocks me off the air, twists my tripod up so it's the position now. It looks like something you might have found at the bottom of the ocean on the Etosha. And here I am. I look a little funky, but I bring in Mike Jones right away to kind of save the day here. Michael, you're looking good and you're centered.
Uh,
I'm looking at this camera. It's on a slant. The other camera, that was my alternative, got knocked out. It's not working. So here I am, kind of, tilted a little bit in one direction or the other. It's almost like I'm trying to figure out whether to lay 3.5 with Pittsburgh. How are you, my friend?
I'm all right. How about yourself, Jeff?
Doing all right. I wanted to get a mention in for Bet Online, the good people there. It's the number one sports betting app that you can find or site. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And you can sign up for it and take advantage of in-game betting. They give you the latest odds, all of the action that you could possibly consume, whether you're betting college basketball, pro football, college games, a lot of interesting matchups on tap. We're probably going to discuss some here on the show. Well, whatever it is, and then they also they make it so easy for you. All kinds of great bonus action as well. Bet Online, head to their site today. Bet Online, the game starts here. All right, Michael, interesting. I know you had some thoughts, and we're still kind of trying to figure out where we stand. We were talking about the possible class action suit that was going to be filed. I don't know who's going to go ahead and spearhead that movement. Maybe you are. On the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight, which appallingly actually attracted 4 times the betting action of any previous boxing match, no matter how amazing the interest was or whatever the competitive level was in any previous boxing match. And there have been zillions of great ones. I know you're a big boxing fan. Yeah. This one gets not 2 times yet, 4 times the betting action. And the public has to feel like, for the most part, they got screwed because it appeared after the fact and even during the match that these guys had a very courteous arrangement that, hey, listen, nobody's going to get hurt. So these kind of movements never work, though. Fans are always talking about how they're going to boycott the NFL and I'll never watch another game again after that travesty. Can you believe we got robbed on that? Pass interference? You're kidding me. And it never happens, right? I mean, all of these leagues are thriving to levels that we never thought were imaginable. The guys are making ridiculous amounts of money. But, what were your thoughts? I mean, people are saying they got ripped off, but most of the people that had Netflix, obviously, were already paying for the service, and they didn't charge any money for this travesty.
And that was the key for me. I haven't watched a card of boxing like that in a while. I geared toward a little bit more MMA when I look into the sport. So now I'm like, okay, let's see what Mike does. Mike's got, he looks like he's in shape. Some of the videos you see, he's throwing hands, throwing combinations, and he looks like he's got movement. His head's moving and all that.
You're thinking he's going to kill this guy.
Yeah, exactly. And then you see the number come out, and I'm like, wow, 215 Jake Paul. The line's moving around. You see all the Tyson money. You're giving me all the stats on that. All the money's coming on Tyson. The tickets are showing this, but yet the line's not moving. And then it seemed like you get into the ring and you start watching. And thank God, which I know we talked about this, that the ladies' fight was fantastic. A little bit of a couple bullying tactics by one of the fighters in that fight. And then you had the title bout earlier that ended up in a draw, an actual draw. And you started seeing, okay, here, this is the card looked like it was going to have some momentum. And I'm like, this is maybe what boxing needs. Texas Stadium's happy. You had 2 good fights. And you get to this main event, and you're sitting there looking at it after about the first minute and a half, which I knew guys that bet Tyson would knock him out in a minute at 20-1. They bet Tyson would knock him out in the first 2 rounds at 7-1. So you're seeing the prices coming in. I'm starting to see, this is what's gauging the interest. The guys our age are thinking, we live. Mike looks good, and for to take one for the 60-year-old, kind of thing.
Sure.
And after the first 2 rounds, I said, like this. And I said at 84.99, it would be World War III.
Oh, my
God. Boxing would be finished.
But the fans always got screwed in those situations.
Right. But the fact that it's only on Netflix and half the people don't have to pay for it, and it's a new subscription type thing for $20.99, and then you get everything else that Netflix provides, might be the way boxing might need to go. So I saw the positive in how they marketed it, but the product was, I mean, I was extremely disappointed. I felt bad for both fighters. I felt bad for Mike that obviously something happened. Did he get a note from P. Diddy prior to the fight that, hey, you might be a problem there? Maybe he got the sidetracked and disenchanted because it looked like he was having problems with leg movement. Like it almost looked like if I didn't know any better, he had a torn ACL when he was in the ring, because he just couldn't move sideways back. But when he came forward earlier in the fight, you're like, oh, he's got a chance to make Paul feel on the defensive. So, and then Paul started pinpointing him, and you started to realize his quickness and his movement was really the deciding factor in the fight. And, it was a joke after the first 2 rounds.
The questions would be, how do they sanction that as an actual bout? Texas Licensing Department, I guess it's called TLD. I mean, who's on that commission?
Right.
You have to wonder.
Hey, yeah.
And then, so it became a betting event and quite a spectacular. I mean, think
Mhm.
about that. There had to be zillions of dollars bet on Ali Foreman and
Right.
Ali Frazier
Well,
fights back in the day. And this exceeds anything previously by 4 times the amount wagered. And yet, I mean, the people that bet on this fight, they have no foundation for a
yeah.
lawsuit if they thought they got screwed
No,
because
no,
you had Jake Paul admitting
no.
that he carried Tyson for the last 6 rounds.
Right.
Wire. I mean, there were 2 minute rounds. You were betting
Right.
into a farce.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And let
you
me
were
say this.
literally betting on the circus.
I'll ask you this as a boxing aficionado. What have we seen since 2018 in boxing that's been a fight that really has warranted? The Floyd Mayweather fights have been walkthroughs and guys that he knew he was going to beat to win fights. Canelo, we don't even know what station Canelo's even or pay-per-view Canelo's even working for now. So where is boxing at? Well, 2018, why this volume is it's Tyson, it's Jake Paul, and it's legalization of sports betting. So if you have to go back, that's why I think the volume was up on this fight. Is that it's MMA is being bet now, as big as baseball or basketball, and now you have another fight coming in with two prominent names, a master marketer in Jake Paul. What he's pulled off, even Trump, I don't even think Trump could have done with the marketing tool that Jake Paul pulled off in this particular event. So to me, I think it's the bets are coming in because legalization of sports betting and a big fight that people would have a little bit of interest in. I think that's where you saw the volume come from.
This struck me. I know it's not popular to get into any kind of political discussion, but I don't know. I've known a lot of people, and having delved into some of the darker sides of life, I've run across more than my share of characters, as have you, Mike Jones.
Yeah, yeah,
But I don't know of anybody in my circle of friends or acquaintances over the years that's ever been involved in any kind of allegations of
yeah,
sexual assault. And yet you
right,
have,
yeah,
like, it seems like everybody in the Trump cabinet is these
right, yeah,
investigations going. I don't know. I mean, look, I've known every degenerate in the world. I don't know anybody that was ever up on charges or being investigated for any kind of sexual assault. And I
well,
certainly would distance myself from anybody that fell into that category.
that's right. And Tyson did have his little bit of that too in the '90s. Also, he would spend
Yeah,
some time.
and those 3 years that he spent in the slammer, people
Yeah,
forget. Angelo Dundee used to tell me this all the time that the 3 years, and you could see there was physical and tangible evidence of it. The 3 years Ali was out of boxing,
mhm,
who knows what he would have been had he been
yeah,
fighting there in his prime, and maybe he would have staved off the desire to keep going well past the point where it was advisable for his health, which you would have to think if Tyson got hit in the head a few times, and Jake Paul, as we were saying, not the worst boxer
yeah.
that has ever
No,
gotten into the
and
ring.
getting better, and
So
getting better, showing his athleticism in the ring, and getting better. Now getting craftier. I mean, we said afterwards they talking about a fight with Canelo. I mean, it's obviously put on weight to fight Tyson. What weight would that catch weight be at that fight? Would they even be the
I
same?
wouldn't want to be Jake Paul in a Canelo fight.
No,
Uh,
I wouldn't either. I
uh,
wouldn't either. But
yeah,
that's going to be what it takes. It's the Floyd Mayweather factor, which again I said on the show last week. I'm a huge supporter of Floyd and I like him, which people find a little bit of a rare characteristic. I mean, I would like a guy like Floyd, but I see Paul very along the similar lines. And you don't know how these guys connect. Do they even know each other? Is Mayweather saying be the hated one, and people will come out and enjoy your product and want to see you lose, like we were talking about? Well, that would be a matchup that people might want to see Canelo take out Paul after what he cost him in this particular fight, especially the Tyson better might want to see it. So there might be a lot of interest in that.
Oh,
You
there
know,
will be. Yeah,
moving
whoever
forward.
he fights,
Yeah,
he could fight. As we were saying, he could fight
yeah,
the guys that used to be on a celebrity boxing circuit.
right.
Screech gets checked out, so
Hmm.
that match is not makeable. But
Yeah,
anyway, yeah, a lot of money wagered on it. People that think that they're going to get their money back. I mean, if you bet into something where it has sucker written all over it, can you possibly then
yeah,
complain that you got fucked?
yeah.
Because you were essentially betting money into a fixed, a rigged event that wasn't even should never have been sanctioned as a legitimate sporting event. And yet it was. It was perceived that way, and probably did boxing some good in the long run, as you said. So,
Yeah, I
well,
think the two earlier fights helped the sport, and now you had that in the big event. So I think if you're starting to see it, does Netflix, who are getting into the NFL on Christmas Day, does Netflix now say, let's be the new HBO of boxing and we'll start doing live events? Now, the streaming part of this was a problem, and I heard
a disaster.
Pat McAfee make a really great point. That is the NFL going to tolerate this if there's a streaming issue come Christmas Day on what they're about to dip into with Netflix. So Netflix has got
Depends
to correct
on the
that.
amount of money, just strictly on the amount of money.
Yeah.
You can buy your way out of a mistake with Roger Goodell, I would think. Yes, for sure. All right. Speaking of the NFL, Mr. New York Giants,
Yeah.
Tommy Cutlets is back. Well, we
Yeah.
always joke that this guy, I mean, he was gargling with ragu spaghetti sauce. Next thing you know, he's standing in front of Rayo's and he's got a table of four waiting for him. He became the darling of New York last year, kind of a Linsanity thing.
Yeah.
Like Linsanity, eventually that whole serendipitous story flashed back to reality. And the reality was that he probably belonged as a third string quarterback and his agent was a character. So that kind of made the story even more fun. But going to be starting for your G-men. They bypassed Drew Lock. There's speculation, I guess, did Drew Lock have incentives in his contract that if he played a certain number of snaps, that he would automatically receive bonus money that was in excess of what the Giants want to give him. So they bypassed him for the third string guy who we thought I didn't even know Tommy DeVito was still in the league until his name popped up here.
Yeah. Well, here's what, I was on the Big Gunner podcast talking about this just yesterday, and you can dip in deep into it. The factor is you got a 2-8 team. The quarterback in film that I've watched has cost us certain big plays. You're disenchanting the wide receiver base, which is getting to be a better room. The emergence of Wandell Robinson, obviously Malik Neighbors, I think we all think he's going to be a star on our end. You can't get these guys disenchanted that our quarterback can't get him the ball. Again, one win, 3-13 in his starts, one win without Andrew Thomas. With Andrew Thomas, there's one game. You lose your left tackle. There's things in the process of what Daniel Jones is going through that I believe is saying that he's worried more about the rush than and getting hurt than he is worried about functioning as a quarterback, seeing the receivers throwing the ball. The case of Drew Lock becomes this, and I make a statement about this. I am very upset, was more adamant about letting Saquon Barkley out of the room, when they let him go. If you don't pay Drew Lock, you don't pay Devin Singletary, and you take one of these extra free agent offensive linemen, let's use Jermaine Elamor, who has played very well, you pay for Barkley. And you have a culture that you've developed with your most popular player that you loaded out of the room. But you let him go to your rival, to the team that became your franchise in the 70s, has beaten you with punts, has beaten you in the playoffs. You can't let him go there. So the Giants Shane made a mistake in my mind of letting this happen. But at this particular point, do you bypass Drew Lock? Something must be seen on the inside, other than, well, Tommy DeVito gave us a boost last year, got the crowd into games, local kid. We won 3 or 4. We won 3 games with him last year. What is it? I don't know that it's the incentive clause because it's only $500,000. He still had to play 7 games. And I think what Brian Dable is now doing, and Shane, is it's a tank without a tank, but I don't think it's efficient enough at this point that I would look at it this way. I look at it like you're probably letting Drew Lock go because he wasn't a clear-cut number 2. So you're not going to pay him $5 million. You're going to let him go on the street and go. So you're finding out if Tommy DeVito is worth a roster spot, a number 2 spot, leading into what you're going to do in the offseason. I think this is where more of where this is going with the team is that they're doing it. Now you got players coming out, and I can get into this from a betting standpoint this week as we approach the Tampa game, because you're getting into a situation where, okay, some of the locker room, Dexter Lawrence came out and supported Daniel Jones. They were in the same draft. They're very close. Darius Slayton's coming out with a little bit of support of Daniel. We're not sure what the front office is doing, what the coaches are doing. So I kind of look at it like, okay, the line's moved up. I like Tampa a little bit at 5.5. Do the Giants come in there? It's a whole different scenario than other than an injury. Now there's a little bit more pressure on DeVito to prove himself now, because he has done it once, and now it's not an injury where he was handed the job. He's been the decision guy to go to. So we'll see how this reacts to the Giants this weekend. But I would go with this. This is the only pick I'm going to give you real quick on a prop. I hit the Barkley one a couple weeks ago. That Barkley would have over yards. Malik Neighbors will get more touches and will get targets. DeVito has to focus on getting this kid the ball, because the stats coming out for Pro Football Focus that he's got the most separation of any receiver in the league right now. So something in the trigger of Daniel Jones. If you see that stat and he's not touching the ball 10 times a game and he's open, then something's going on with Daniel Jones he's not processing. So that's my take on it. I just hope that it works out for the team. I don't want to be drafting first. I want to be drafted 15th. I'd rather win these games. I don't think any of these quarterbacks coming out, including our guy down here in Miami, Cam Ward, I don't know that some of the way he plays is going to resonate to the NFL. So I'm not in love. Like last year, I loved the quarterback draft. This year, I'm not as much in love with it. So I'm kind of more or less best player going. If it's a quarterback, great. If not, you get one in the second round and bring in a free agent and go from there. That's what I think they have to do.
That was brilliant, this analysis. I mean, you gave this some thought. I'm trying to make jokes about spaghetti sauce, and you.
Yeah. Well, hey, this is what I do.
Show.
Yeah. So it was just, it's boring. But I think if I'm betting this week, I don't know that I'm on the Giants.
All right, let's get to it. Let's make the people
Sure.
some money here, right?
Okay.
And I just noticed that this is a wild camera shot. I've got to figure out how to. I may need a crowbar to get this thing straightened out. We'll see.
We're going to straighten you out right now. Here we go.
It was funny. I mean, it really was like it was a chain reaction. Dog gets up, light falls down, knocks over the camera, knocks out my other camera, knocks over the third light, and screws up all of the wiring. And I got like 3 minutes to assemble this shit to get it together for this show. After I just dropped out of nowhere. I mean, it looked like a hurricane hit the house on the other show. So that must be a nice piece of video also. All right, we want to get to it. We want to make some money. There are a lot of interesting games all the way around. We've got all kinds of action. I don't know if you want to.
I'm going to stay with the football right now, and then we'll dig into the basketball. The NBA, I've been tinkering around a little bit with the NBA, following the Heat and stuff like that. We'll get into that in a couple of weeks when I get a better handle on what we're doing with it. But real quick, I got some weird things, and I don't know if we could come up with a little bit of two-way play here, but I see a lot of real big lines. It's these games where these SEC teams, which is a conference I follow a lot, are playing teams outside the conference that are probably a little weaker. So you got Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina all laying the number of 42 or 41.5, 42.5 this week in their games. South Carolina's got Walford, a team that has beaten them in the past, a South Carolina school. Does South Carolina, are they waiting for Clemson next week? Is that a line that you might want to say too many points? They've only scored over two times over 42 points. Georgia's only scored over 42 once, laying the UMass. UMass had Liberty on the ropes last week at home and fired their coach on it. And I was watching the game actually because of a bet I had made and upset with the whole situation. That
you were watching Liberty UMass?
I was. I had it on the ESPN Plus because I had a bet on it. And I was like looking at it. I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. They fired the guy after the game. The UMass coach.
Lose the bet.
Yeah, it was. He went for a field goal, settled for a 40-yard field goal late in the game to win the game against a bowl team at Liberty, a team that's had a decent run here for the last couple of years. And the kicker was 2-6. I don't even know these stats. I'm like, the guy's 2 of 6, and he's settling for a 45-yard field goal. And the kid misses the shot, misses the kick. Then they get the ball in overtime, and the kid misses the extra point. They lose by 1. So now they fire the coach, and I'm want to fire him on the spot. They turn out they do, and I get a chuckle.
A new kicker. Yeah.
So UMass goes down there with a new coach, a new vision. They're getting 42 from Georgia.
All right.
Georgia doesn't score 42. I mean, I'm just thinking of that. And then Tennessee, they haven't put up 42 points since the third game of the year when they were rolling. I just think that those games you got to look at and say, okay, if you want to play around, maybe a dog in that spot because I don't like to lay. I don't think many teams are covering the 42. And with the look aheads and the playoffs and not getting guys injured, the fact that this isn't the second to last game of the season now, if you're heading to the playoffs, you're going to be playing 3 or 4 more games. So those are the things like.
Okay, so
All right.
you're taking like
Just we're
40
looking
some
at
odd
looking at
points.
the big 40s, yeah, this week for the
All right.
customer base to look at.
Anything else that you want to zero in
Yeah,
on?
well, let's go to the NFL.
Okay.
NFL, we got, you know, we're seeing now as we watch. Last week we had Detroit over Jacksonville. We're looking at games as we see it that, okay, the big spreads are starting to come a little bit more frequent now. You're getting a double digit spread. And I'm going to look at one of these double digit spreads in a game that I think is perplexing. So 3 weeks ago, would Washington have been a 10-point favorite over the Cowboys? I don't see it. Maybe 4 or 5. The injuries are starting to come. Parsons is back playing. You watch Dallas Monday night. CeeDee Lamb looks disinterested. Parsons is on the bench during big drives in the half. Is he out doing his podcast? Dallas looks like they have quit and given up. Washington, on the other hand, Dan Quinn was a defensive coordinator in Dallas. Tyler Biadasz is center, free agent. Dallas doesn't sign him. All-pro center coming over. Washington with a lot to play for. Jaden Daniels coming off that mini bye and a 10-day rest. Probably feels a lot better. Got hurt in the Carolina game, 2 losses. I think this is the game Washington gets right. I watched a little bit of the better players in Dallas Monday night, and they look disinterested. I think and a lot of things for handicapping purposes, a tidbit I give you, take a team with great expectations at the start of the season that realizes they're going nowhere and watch them fall. So the number is there at 10. I don't like laying double digits, but I really think this could be a game that Washington bounces back just with a little bit more energy. Dallas off the short week. I think this is 3-0 a spread where a team has played a team off a mini bye or a bye against the Monday night game. 6 days to prepare, but Washington's got 10. I'm going to lay the 10 with Washington.
All right, laying 10 with the Commanders, who are looking to make a little bit of a bounce back. And I'm with you. I mean, we talk about it all the time here on the show that there is nothing more delightful, more pleasurable than watching Jerry Jones writhing in agony in the owner's suite and watching the Dallas Cowboys get shellacked. I think the country is in on that now. And it's just it's a sweet feeling to see them getting blown apart like that. But as you said, I mean, in this last outing, they were sort of in there with a shot maybe to cover. I thought the line was very short there at only getting 7 points with the
Yeah.
Cowboys, who were in complete disarray. And sure enough, I mean, they ended up getting pounded at the end of that game, having thrown in the towel. So
Yeah.
maybe they've done that on the season. They don't look like much with Cooper Rush as quarterback anyway. So, and interesting that Trey Lance, a former number 3 overall pick of the very sharp organization when it comes to this kind of shit, the San Francisco 49ers, is not even able to get on the field there over Cooper Rush, even though it was a mild investment to acquire this guy compared to his draft status. But is he? I mean, he's in Jamarcus Russell territory as
Yeah.
all-time first-round bust, although wasn't a number 1 overall pick. All right, so you got Washington taking advantage of a downtrodden Dallas Cowboy team, and we get to enjoy another beating and then cash in on it. That would be great.
Right. So
Where else are you going now, Mike
I,
Jones?
I got 2 more, and one is just something I see where a team looks like they're disenchanted. So we watch the Raiders come down here and play the Dolphins last week. So all the locals here are all happy. Dolphins get a big cover, big win. Tua throws for 3 touchdown passes for the first time in a while. And you watch the Raiders. Other than Brock Bowers, other than Max Crosby, few players they have, they're another team that might be looking to pack it in. Mincho seems to be more turnover prone than normal. Well, now you got the red hot Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos losing competitive games at Kansas City, but go in last week in a game that I looked at that I was scared because the line looked too low. Felt Atlanta was in a bad spot, and Denver blows them out. Tough spot for Atlanta. Denver's 36. Denver's looks great. Why is that line 5.5, 6? I took it at 5.5. I saw 6. Could be even higher. I look at this game. Denver's something to play for. I think Sean Payton has done a coach of the year type job there, changing the culture. Their defense is going to be really rough. Gardner Minshew, a turnover prone guy. I think I just love Denver in this spot here, laying the 6 on the road. I just think that you're just going to see these teams. You got 11 teams now with 3 wins or less that look like they're checking out. I quote with my Giants. I know we're trying hard and all this stuff, but Max Crosby is a leader. I know for a fact that Max is wanted out of Las Vegas. He's much as popular a player as he is. You just think that era gets into the locker room. What I think happens with Dallas, I also think it's happened with the Raiders here. I'll take Denver and lay the points.
They were giving it some kind of an effort against a very suspect Miami Dolphin defense last week. Kind of kept them alive as they were marching up and down the field, but nonetheless, ended up not only blowing a ball game, but blowing a ball game to the spread. So they seem to be in that kind of a pattern, and a lot of people are locking in, Mike, with you, and
Mhm.
just saying, "Hey, the bad teams are really bad,
Yeah,
and they're only going to get worse." So, good time to go ahead and just put a knife right in their back and lay
right,
whatever amount of points you have to, but take advantage of the fact that while the Broncos are certainly playing above what expectations were for them before the season, the
right,
Raiders have taken a shit, and they
right.
appear to be finished. All right, one more for the
All
fans.
right, so we're going our best bet of the day, and I usually don't say this, but this is a game I'm kind of really keying in on. Probably the game of the afternoon, the doubleheader game for the national TV audience. San Francisco goes up to Green Bay and plays the Packers. All right, so revenge style game for the Packers, right? So you think they're going to come in, after the big win in Dallas in the playoffs last year down in Dallas. Green Bay goes out to gives San Francisco all they want and falls in the second half and loses. San Francisco, now their back is to the wall. If they lose another game with a game in hand in Arizona, they could look at a situation where they could be in trouble to make the playoffs. I think this is the game for their playoff lives. They lose this game with with Washington having an easier schedule, as well as Minnesota being having 8 wins. All of a sudden, San Francisco's on the outside looking in. I love the 49ers in this spot. I like Shanahan. I love they're gonna get Kittle back. Don't know the status of Nick Bosa. I thought they gave a game away last week against Seattle. I think Seattle played very well down the stretch, got an extra possession when they shouldn't have to win the game. I think this line was earlier 3, which is what I took it at. And now it's down to 2. Someone thinking the way we're thinking. Not only do I like the 2, I even like the money line in this game. I think season on the line, big time playoff game. And I look at it like Jordan Love's a little susceptible to turnover. If they can get a little pressure, this is the make or break game for the 49ers. I think they realize what's on the line here. And I think they come up with a W in Green Bay.
All right, so taking the 49ers on the road against the Green Bay Packers, and 49ers trying to bounce back from a tough loss last week. Also, riding the Denver Broncos against a very poor Raiders team, and taking advantage of the fact that Dallas sucks. And I'm going to go ahead and lay 10. I saw yesterday the line was 10 and a hook.
Yeah.
The Commanders at home trying
Yeah.
to bounce back from a couple of tough beats and see if they can't roll right over the Dallas Cowboys like everybody else has. Mike, how can people find your stuff, the picks that you
Yep.
put out there for the public and for your clients?
We're having fun on the Big Gunner podcast on Spotify, where we're talking giant football, and we're probably not interested in that. And you want to get to the gambling, you could forward it down to the end of the show where I talk about college football and and pro football, and I give out my pick 5 for the week, and picksforprofits.com where we give out one game a day, and we're giving your money back on the best bet. So those are the 2 areas to find me. The Big Gunner podcast is getting some traction now. We're talk about interesting stuff. When there's the Giants move out of the playoff spot and the season ends, we'll get heavy into playoffs. Last year we were 10-3 in all the playoff games. We'll pick every playoff game for you for free, and just become a listener and subscribe, and we'll be good to go.
Very passionate stuff, man. I
Yes,
think the Giant thing would trigger
yes,
a very emotional response from you here, and that was well thought out. Mike, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for being
great.
with us on
Thanks
Bury
for
Your
having
Bookie.
me. You got it.
Mike Jones, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for bearing with us. We'll fix this up hopefully in the next few minutes after the show, the next occasion, and we'll do it again tomorrow. As wow, I can't believe the week's gone by. We're already up to a Friday, and then we will have a couple of special events for you prior to the Thanksgiving Day. So it's free to get a Turkey Day parlay on 3 NFL games. That makes it especially pleasurable to go ahead and have that second slice of pie and some stuff to catch. I will see you next time. Thanks everybody for the people